what is going on? It's your boy Nate. Appreciate you guys leaving those comments in the last couple of videos for the encouragement and also for just speaking your mind and your experiences. It really helps out the channel. It also helps out the community. It also gives me some ideas on where you guys are coming from. And I'm gonna be real with you guys. What you're talking about is very common and it's very useful as well, because a lot of us are either going through it, have been through it, or are wondering what would happen if we do go through it. So one of the biggest things I wanted to talk about, especially it was something I talked about a lot in my last couple of videos, is confidence, and what kind of confidence is the most important to women and how that looks in your life, how that looks just across the board, all right? And there's really two different kinds of confidence, guys. The first kind of confidence is going to be external confidence. The second type is going to be internal confidence. Now, some people might have talked about this, but I just want to clarify, especially from what I've seen, experienced, and just from what other people have as well. So why is it important to women? What is more important? And we'll flesh that out here. So first I want to start with external confidence, guys. Now, external confidence, you can classify this as being, masculine on the outside. That's the best way to put it, right? Where basically you look the part, you look like a man, right? You have your look together, right? Your hair isn't crazy. You're not wearing messed up clothes. You're able to talk efficiently, clearly, for the most part, right? Most of us have some sort of speech impediment that happens every now and again. Sometimes I slur words, sometimes I stutter words, it happens, right? But that doesn't mean you just stop talking, right? The more reps you put in, the more you put yourself in awkward and stressful situations, the better you get at talking. So external confidence, guys, also comes in the form of your financial well-being as well. So if you are driving nicer cars, if you're able to wear nicer quality of clothing, things like that, right? The other thing would be your status. So how many people do you know? What kind of people do you know? What kind of groups, organizations are you a part of? Within those groups and organizations, what is your role? What is your, where do you fall in that hierarchy, right? As much as a lot of guys want to disregard this, I think it's super important when it comes to being a man, because oftentimes as men, especially if you're not naturally, alpha, right? You weren't born in that kind of mindset. If you weren't, raised by a masculine father figure, or maybe you were more of a mama's boy, whatever you want to call it, it's easier to fall into those subordinate, submissive roles. And I want to talk about that here as well. So as a man, you can be in a lot of these organizations. For instance, I'm just going to use the military as an example, because that's what I was in for quite a while. So in the military, right, you have different ranks, and you have, basically you have like E1 through E4. I'm talking about the Army specifically. This is a little bit different across branches, but E1 through E4 is what you call lower enlisted. And then once you get to E5 and above, that's when you get into the non-commissioned officers. And so you end up in more of a leadership position, right? You actually have authority. You're supposed to lead by example. You're supposed to help out the E1 to E4s. And what happens, guys, a lot of times as men, you get comfortable and complacent, and you only want to stay in the E1 through E4 range. Some guys don't think they're ready for the leadership. Some guys don't want to be in leadership. Some guys, it's very intimidating. And if I'm being honest with myself, years ago, back when I was in my younger 20s, it was intimidating, right? The idea of that. But in reality, it's a really good place to be, because you grow, right? You're stretched, who you are as a person, your ability to overcome things, your ability to solve problems, your abilities. The fact you have to lead by example, that's a big thing, right? You have to hold yourself to a higher standard. So it's very good for yourself, guys. It doesn't have to be in the military, but if you're in an organization where there's, management, right? Try to shoot for management. All right, try to get to a point where you have some authority and some leadership positions, because it will change who you are as a man. A lot of men are, guys, I'm seeing it today, it's crazy. And just throughout my experience being in the workplace, it's crazy how a lot of men don't want to step up to the plate. Or maybe you're in an environment where as a man, maybe you're not able to get into a position of authority and leadership, right? Maybe it's female dominated. And as a man, you probably should find a different career path, right? You should find something that caters, in a sense, to you a little bit more, because we live in a crazy world now where male leadership is seen as, super authoritarian and dominating and demeaning and tyrannical, and it doesn't have to be at all. Good male leaders, guys, can change countries, can change the world for the better, right? Can help a lot of people out, but there's not a lot of men who are willing to step up and be a good leader. So put yourself in a position where you can lead, right? Put yourself in a position where you are outside your comfort zone, where you're having to take care of people, where you're having to lead people, right? It can be in church, it can be in a volunteer group, it can be in a running club, it can be in a sports club, it can be at work, right? It can be in all these places. Put yourself in that position, because that will help. That, to me, guys, that goes back to the socializing that I talked about in my other videos. I'm a huge believer that socialization is, guys, it's probably a majority, it's a super majority, it's a huge reason why you are who you are. A lot of us want to play this lone wolf, Sigma, whatever crap, right? We want to live life like we're, John Wick or Jason Bourne, and we're just behind the scenes and we're always getting stuff done. And very few of us are actually ever going to get to that point where we're doing anything close to something like that, right? You don't have to live your life in this incognito mode where you're just always below the radar, nobody knows who you are, and you think you're doing badass stuff, but in reality, you're just holed up in your apartment or in your room, browsing a bunch of forums and watching videos about who you could be and what you can do, but you're not actually going to act on it. So again, socialize, get out there, get into groups. Guys, that's going to help you with connections. Everybody wants to fall back on what's on their resume, what's on paper, what's on, what they've done, right? When it comes to academics, everybody's focused on the degrees and, I got this award and this certification, and those things help, guys. Don't get me wrong. They help. But I would say that from what I've seen, from what I've experienced, listening to other people, that's probably, I would have to say, guys, it's probably only maybe 30% of it. Guys, it's all about who you know. It's all about who you know, where you know them. That's why it's always good to socialize and go out, because you can be somebody who doesn't meet the requirements, right, or the qualifications, but let's say that you're best friends or you're really good friends with somebody and they just happen to be the son of this guy who has a really good company, and you and this guy are talking, and you're talking about work, maybe you're trying to find a job, you guys hit it off really well, whatever, and you find out, oh, this guy, you guys start talking about the job, and this guy is like, hey, well, let me tell my dad about you. Well, the dad's gonna be like, well, it's my son, right? Like, I trust him, especially if the son's part of the business. And then boom, you just got yourself a job. Maybe you don't have the degree requirement, maybe you don't have the whatever, but they'll help you get there, because people like when things are familiar. People like when things are more personal, right? And so it's all about who you know, guys. It's all about who you know. That's why really these days it's so easy, because as a man, most guys don't want to socialize. Most guys don't want to go out there, don't want to put themselves out there, don't want to get to know people. They don't want to ask questions. They don't want to get to know them, right? A lot of guys are just selfish. They want to stay to themselves. They want to just do what they do, play video games, just be lazy, right? It's very easy to be comfortable. It's very easy to just live life as you are. It's easy, guys. It's so easy these days, but that's why if you just put yourself out there a little bit, right? If you ever wanted to start a YouTube channel of some kind, right? It doesn't have to be about relationships and people. That's just what I like to do. That's just what I feel like I'm naturally good at. And you might be really naturally gifted at like programming or coding, or maybe you're really good at walkthroughs in video games. Like, guys, you can capitalize on almost anything if you're good at something, right? If you are really good at video games I'm not a huge advocate of video games, but if you're really good at them, you can make videos. Like, you can be a streamer, you can make walkthrough videos, you could start getting hundreds, thousands of views, you could start making money, right? It might not happen overnight. It might take you years. You might have to put yourself out there every day or multiple times a week for a couple years, but eventually that will pay off, right? You'll get to the point where you're really good at what you do, and that compounding will take you somewhere, right? It's inevitable, especially if you're good at it. But I harp on this, guys, because I feel like the missing piece. If you look throughout history, right, there were some people, that are born into something and they can't change where they are in life. But as a man, if you go after what you want to do, especially in a free country, if you can do what you want to do, put a little bit of time into it, it's going to pay off eventually. It's better to do that than just sit in an office, not enjoying what you're doing, right, for years on end because you have to make a paycheck. So that's another thing I want to add to this, guys, is your status. It's not all about money to women. A lot of women, even if they know a guy is well off, making six figures in an office, that's not going to be a big deal to them. Some, it might be, right? Especially if you're dating a little bit older, maybe later 20s, 30s, things like that. That might be a little bit more important. But they would rather a guy who's doing something exciting that he enjoys. That's why there are chicks who, again, I made a video on this about why chicks date broke guys, why they would rather be with a guy who has less money, who's barely making it by, doing what he enjoys, living the life he wants to live, because there's something about a guy who's confident and comfortable with himself. Not comfortable in a negative sense, but like comfortably confident. There's something about that women love. They'd rather have less money. I've seen it time and time again, right? It happens all the time. A lot of guys fall back on their money. But while we're on the subject, let's talk about that, because this video is about external confidence. Your money, guys. I do not advocate trying to show off that you're rich, because I truly believe, especially in this day and age, that it will attract the wrong type of women. Now, you'll attract all types of women, right? Even the good ones, because good women also want a man who can provide, but you'll also attract the looser ones, the more promiscuous ones, the more gold digger types, right? And what's going to happen is those women are going to be more forward. They're going to be better across the board. They're going to be better seducers, right? And what happens is a lot of guys, especially if they haven't had a whole lot of experience with women, they've never experienced women, they're going to fall for that type. And that's why you have a lot of rich guys or guys with money who destroy their lives, because they end up getting with women who don't care about them. They just care about their money. They just care about what they have. And you have these guys who get with these women, have kids with them, and that's where the classic, married for less than a year, a couple years, less than 10 years, right? That 7-year mark that everybody talks about, and they find out, oh my gosh, like they're not who I thought they were, right? So be very careful if you lead with money. I think the best way to show external confidence with money is to just be at the minimum threshold of what makes you confident, right? And that's gonna be different for every guy, because some guys are gonna make six figures, some guys are gonna make half of that, some guys are gonna be millionaires. So I would suggest, if you are decently well off in money, right, go to department stores for clothes. There's nothing wrong with shopping at Ross or Kohl's or JCPenney or Macy's or whatever for clothes, right? You don't have to go to stores in the mall. You don't have to go to name brand stores. You don't have to wear Gucci, guys. Newsflash, again, if you start wearing all this designer clothing, again, you're gonna attract the wrong type of women. It happens all the time. I've seen it happen. And again, as a man, you tend to rely on those external factors more, and you're just gonna attract those type of women who are just all about the external. So you don't want to be that guy. All right, you want to wear, doesn't mean you have to wear clothes from thrifting also is a good idea if you have the time, if you have the actual time for it, especially in nicer areas. Like if you go to a really nice area, that's close to where you're at, and you go to a thrift store there, yeah, you're gonna have a lot of really good clothes you can choose from that are gonna be way less expensive, right? It's gonna take a little bit longer than going to a department store, but oftentimes you can save money. But Honestly, guys, if you just go to a department store, a lot of times they run deals. You can get like really good coupons and stuff. Going to department stores using coupons doesn't make you cheap, right? If you are at the point where you're like a millionaire and it's, you want to spend a little bit more on clothes, cool, by all means, man, you do you. But for like the everyday guy, you can go to department stores and find clothes. There's a lot to choose from, right? That actually fit you. Now here's where it gets crazy, especially if you're not fit. You want to be getting fit, but find clothes that you actually enjoy wearing that actually fit you. Because if you're a fit guy, or maybe you don't have a whole lot of fat, a lot of these clothes are meant for guys who are like chubby, who are overweight, who don't work out in the gym. So you got to look a little bit harder. You got to try some of these clothes on and actually see if they fit you. But just wear nice clothes, guys. You can get nice polos, nice button-ups for like 20, 30 bucks. You can get good clothing that's going to last you a long time for a pretty decent price, right? It's not all about the labels. Everybody's obsessed about the emblems and the labels and looking. To me, it's like, yeah, there's some classy clothing out there that looks nice. I have some, clothes that are like that. But if you're walking around like a billboard for a company, to me, that just takes away from, I don't know, your personality. That's just me though. So anyway, external factors when it comes to finances, just be careful. It goes for cars as well, guys. All right, you don't have to have the nicest car. You don't have to have a BMW. Just have a car that's decent, it's put together. You take care of it, right? Again, you want to find women who are looking for like long-term. This is a channel about like long-term things, guys. So, I mean, a lot of this works on short-term women or women who look for short-term things, but this is geared for the overall, long haul. So when it comes to that, guys, status and money, that's how I would go about that. Now let's talk about personality, and then I'm going to get on to the internal factors. So when we are externally confident, guys, that comes across as, we're not acting super goofy all the time, right? We're not acting girly. A lot of guys straight up act super girly and giggly. And honestly, this is something I was super guilty of back in the day. And sometimes I have to catch myself now because it's easy, right? It's easy to get into that. Some guys, you're just wired that way. Maybe you've always done that. Maybe it's a subconscious thing, but you got to catch it, right? Because if you're always just giggling and smiling and just everything's a joke, right? Yeah, it's kind of funny to be the class clown every now and again, but you got to be serious too, right? You can't always be just giggly, goofy, and everything's a joke, because life is serious, guys. And as a man, you have to portray that. But you don't want to be the complete opposite of that either. You don't want to be like everything's always serious. I'm the alpha male, and I'm going to live life in serious mode. Nothing can get through my armor. You don't want to live that life either, guys. A lot of guys, they go with extremes. Guys, if you really pay attention, and again, this is from what I've seen, and other guys can attest to this, what works is just being yourself. And I would say that at the core of a lot of men is the side that, yes, can be goofy and silly. That should be primarily more reserved for when you're around your buddies, right? When you're around women, you can be goofy, but it's more like you're charming, right? You got to be more of a charmer. Things have to be funny, but you're not being silly, right? The only times you should be silly with a woman really is if you guys are like alone, you guys are just chilling somewhere private. It's okay to be silly every now and again, right? If you guys are on the couch, it's okay to, just be silly, right? For a little bit, but you don't want to make that your whole personality. You don't want to be the guy who has it all together up front, and then as soon as a girl gets you alone, or you're alone with a woman, right, you just completely break down, and you're just this you're just this super soft dude, right? Again, there's a time and a place for that, right? But women are attracted to masculine men. It's like when guys, I thought about this the other day. I just went out Saturday night, and it got me thinking, when most guys are around women who are masculine, it's a turnoff, right? You don't like women who are loud. You don't like women who are like trying to be one of the bros. Most guys go for women who are feminine, who are sweet, who are more submissive, just naturally more feminine. And I couldn't help but think, I was like, that's probably the same way women view feminine men. is, yeah, they might be kind of attractive, but at the same time, they're just not exactly what they like. Does that make sense? They don't want a super smiley, goofy, teddy bear kind of guy, right? They say they do. And again, there's a time and a place for it, but that can't be like just who you are all the time, right? You have to be a protector. You have to be serious. Life is serious. So portray that you are a masculine guy. Be confident. Again, sometimes, guys, when I talk to girls, I know that I stutter, that I slur words. It happens. It happens every now and again. But I don't let that affect me. I don't start to go, oh my gosh, I'm sorry for doing that. I just keep going with it. And most of the time, guys, the funny thing is, and I've actually taken like voice recordings of myself. I've heard like videos and stuff, like playback of myself. And when I think I stutter on something, half the time I don't even do it. So it's all in my head. And so half the time, if you have a speech problem or anything, right, and you talk, guys, most of the time it's just in your head. All right, most of the time people don't even catch it. And if it happens, so what? Make a joke about it. If it's super obvious, maybe you can tell that they caught on, like just make a joke about it, you know? It doesn't have to be super serious. You don't have to start like getting all like emotional and like, oh my gosh, I'm sorry, or like freaking out or getting all nervous. Dude, we're people. We all have our imperfections. So just roll with it. But portray that you're masculine, right? Talk to people, get out there, do things that make you uneasy. Like the other night, I went out Saturday night, I went to a Western, it was like a country Western, like bar, dance floor. And I only go to those like maybe once a year. I want to go more just to get over my fear of dancing, but long story short, that's what happened. I went, ended up dancing. I didn't really want to, but there's this girl there that was kind of cool. So I was like, I'll take her to dance. And it was fun, right? I wasn't the best dancer out there, but I was confident. That's what counted. So you got to have fun. Even if you're not 100% good at something, just be confident. Just make some jokes about it, right? Just pretend you're the man, guys. That's really what it comes down to. Like, women know when you're not naturally good at something, especially like if they've been out dancing a lot. Maybe you're not the best dancer, but if you're trying, if you're, being charming, if you're, making her laugh, that's all that counts, guys. It's just having fun. And that actually signals, in my opinion, right? That signals more to a woman than actually being super proficient and good at something, because that lets her know, like, you're not scared of things that you're not naturally good at. You're not scared of possibly being made to look like a fool in front of people, right? You're giving it your all. You're doing your best. A lot of women see that, and that's a huge turn on for a lot of women, guys. It doesn't have to just be dancing. It can just be things in general, but that's a huge turn on. So again, a lot of these things, guys, we get in our heads. We think we got to be perfect. We think we got to be Superman, and we really do not. All right. So that's the external things I wanted to talk about, guys. Pretty basic stuff, pretty upfront. Now let's switch lanes here. We'll talk real quickly about the internal confidence. Now, the external stuff, guys, you will run into quite a few guys who will have those external things, right? In fact, I used to primarily rely on the external things when I was younger, when I was in my late teens, early 20s. I would rely on that, and it got me results, right? I went out with women. I got, women, I hit it off, right? It wasn't a big deal. What I found out was that I was actually relying a lot on the external factors, right? On the looks, on the going out, on looking a certain part, on acting a certain part. In some ways, it felt like I was wearing a mask. And it took probably, I'd say a good 4 or 5 years of that before I went, wait a minute, is this really who I am? And I started to do a lot of like digging inside, and I figured out, wait a minute. Yes, there were times I was actually confident, right? You kind of fake it till you make it. But I was relying, my foundation was on those external things. And this is why the internal confidence is the most important, guys. What does internal confidence looks like? So internal confidence, this is what I talked more about in my other videos, but internal confidence is going to be that I can do it. I'm going to get it done. I can do this. Even if I mess up, it's okay. This is my goal. This is my mission. I'm going to proceed. I'm going to do my best. Even if I make myself a fool in front of this girl, even if I make myself a fool in front of my friends, I'm not going to live a life always regretting, always going home going, oh my gosh, why didn't I say that? Why didn't I do that? Or second guessing everything I did do. Like, oh, I don't know why I said that. I don't know why I did that, right? Get out of your head. get out of your head, guys. Internal confidence is the most important thing. And if you've never really had to face that, it can take you a while. And by a while, I mean, it can in some ways take a couple of years to fully start to grasp what internal confidence means, right? If you're watching this, maybe you've been broke, maybe you've been kicked out of your house, maybe you failed college, maybe you failed school, maybe you've made some bad choices, right? Sometimes it takes those things to happen. Sometimes it takes negative experiences. Maybe you've had a bad breakup, like a really bad breakup. Maybe you've had a divorce. Maybe you've had, some crazy stuff with family happen. Maybe you've had some traumatic things happen to you. I don't know, guys. But sometimes, well, most of the time, what we do as guys is we suppress it and we just try to press it down with substances, with alcohol, with going out, with women, with video games, with junk food, right? You can make an entire list of these things, and we press it down and we just try to get by and we cope. But as a man, you got to face it. You got to face your fear. You have to face that demon in the closet. You got to actually look at it in the eyes. You got to face it head on, and you have to be in charge. You have to take control. You have to do what you have to do. And it takes a while. It takes trial and error. But if you keep doing that, guys, again, you'll build momentum. You will snowball. You will get to the point where you're like, hey, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. This is actually helping me get results, right? And it's going to be slow, right? Sometimes it's going to be slow. It's going to be really slow with the results that you get, right? It might not be overnight, but you'll look back over the last several weeks, months, and go, wow, like I can't believe I did this and this and this, and I'm going towards this and this and this, and you'll just keep going, right? And so what happens is sometimes as men, we get comfortable, complacent, we slow down, we take a longer break than we need to, we get back into bad habits, old habits, we go down a path we know it's not good for us, and then we fall off. But guys, it's really simple. If you just come to that realization that you can do it, focus on your strengths, right? Remember your weaknesses too. Some people say focus on your weaknesses. I don't necessarily believe in that, right? I use the example that I'm not good at ice skating. I'm not going to put all my time and effort into being a pro ice skater because one, I don't enjoy it. Two, I know I'm not good at it naturally. And so, yeah. Now I also believe that if I'm bad at something, but if I have the passion for it, that I'm going to be able to succeed at it. That's a good mindset to have. But focus on what you're good at, right? Focus on your strengths. Everybody's got a gift. Everybody's got a strength, multiple strengths, multiple things that can help propel them forward in what they want to do. So you got to realize what those are, and you got to actually be okay with being confident, guys. A lot of times guys are beat down. They're told it's not okay to be confident. It's not okay to be a man. It's not okay to be masculine. It's not okay to do what you want to do, right? We have this idea in our heads that we should do what everybody else wants us to do, that we should go for a job that has more money just because it might be better for our family, while at the same time disregarding our health, our mental state, right? Our passions, right? If you have a family, obviously you should provide, but is an extra $10K a year going to be worth it in the long haul if it actually wears you down as a man, right? If it's not what you want to do, it's better to do what you like to do, propel yourself forward, and eventually you'll find that you'll make it with the money that you have, and you'll end up in a place that's better than if you just went after the money. If you just went after what people said you should do, the positions, the jobs, the lifestyle, like all these things people tell you to do. And guys, that's pretty much all there is to it. You have to find what you believe in. Belief is the biggest thing. So whether that's you read the Bible, I'm a big believer in that, right? I think the Bible is a great foundation to have for your life. Some guys find their foundation in their natural abilities, right? They're really good at sports. They're really good at physical things. Maybe they're really smart. You could be like a whiz, right? Maybe you're really charismatic. You're really good at talking to crowds. You're really good at inspiring people, right? Maybe you're really good at building things, creating things, right? I don't know what that is, but focus on those things, guys. Like truly focus on those things. Like embrace those things. Go for them. And the funny thing is, if you focus on the internal things first, then all the external things will naturally come after. And that's what I wanted to close this video off with, guys, is if you focus on the internal, the external is going to come naturally. Most guys, they want to focus on the external. They want to focus on, I'm going to get the car, I'm going to get the money, I'm going to get the looks, I'm going to get this. And they try to do all the external things because as guys, we're all about the outward, right? And they might get all these things. They might have the women, they might have the money, the cars, the clothes. They might get it, but then they find out, I'm not happy. I feel like this is purposeless. I'm just kind of like, I'm just walking through, I'm just floating through life. Like there's no purpose to this. It's, in fact, a lot of guys end up finding out it's very, the word slipped in my mind right now. It's basically it hollows you out, right? It's empty. It makes you feel super empty, right? And if you focus on the things that matter, the internal things, if you focus on the things that you're passionate about, if you focus on those, on more of the values, like you have to draw that line in the sand, you know, I talked about in my last video, draw that line in the sand. You have to be, hey, this is what I stand for. This is who I am. This is what I'm going for. And then guess what? All those external things will come. In fact, that's why most guys who are broke, right, can get women because they focus on the internal. And I would say this too, guys, until you get to the point where you actually have a significant amount of money, it's really hard to get girls with the external things. You might get a couple here and there. You might get girls that are all about your looks. They might think they like you. You might have some short-term things. You might think you're the man, but then those guys end up in this like weird spiral where they get with a bunch of girls, but they can't find any that commit to them. Then they end up getting super jaded because all these women just end up being, you know, super loose, promiscuous women anyway. And so they're like, well, what's the point? Where if they focus on the internal things, they focus on the things that matter, you can attract the loose women too, but you'll also attract the higher quality women who are looking for a man who knows his stuff, who has good values. Because guys, believe it or not, there's still good women out there who look for good men, who are raised by good families, who have good religious values, who are looking, who are waiting, who are saving themselves for a guy who is going to be a good husband, a good father. And I think that most of the guys watching this, guys, you are looking for that type of woman too. Even if you're a guy, even if you're a playboy, even if you're a player or you have been or whatever, most guys, they want to find that one woman that they can grow old with, that they can pour all their, you know, it's gonna sound sappy, guys, but they can pour all their love into, they can pour all their work into. That's who we are. We're providers, we're protectors. We want to sacrifice for that one woman. And the guys, I'm gonna be real with you, most women aren't worth sacrificing for. That's why you gotta be the best you can be, and you'll naturally pull women into your life, right? The good ones and the bad ones. It's up to you to find out, to sift through the bad ones, and I'm gonna help you with that with the videos that I'll be making for y'all. So again, if you have any comments, if you have any concerns, if you have any outlooks on this, if you have experiences with this, even if you disagree with me, let me know in the comments. I want to hear what you guys think. I want to hear what's going on with your life, with your friends, what's out there, right? I think it's fascinating. I appreciate it, guys, and I'll see you at the next one.